TEDxColumbus. How are we doing tonight? Awesome. Well, before I get started, I want you guys to close your eyes. Honestly, just close your eyes and picture your favorite fictional character. Now, this can be anyone, maybe it's someone you've always envied a little bit. Maybe it's someone you want to be when you grow up. But whoever it is, I want you to keep them in mind for the rest of my talk. So for me, that character was always acclaimed explorer, Indiana Jones himself. Because frankly, to me, Indiana Jones was the epitome of a risk taker. I mean, all you have to do is look at that opening scene. He's rushing in to grab this idol with countless years of historical information, risking everything just for that information. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And I pointed at the television, I'm like, Mom, this is who I want to be when I grow up. But like any kid, I had to face the bitter realization that Indiana Jones was just a fictional character. And so were all these other fantasies that I loved from books and movies and television, because everyone told me that they were impossible and that they were never going to happen. But as I got older, I kept in the back of my mind, well, maybe these adventures, maybe these fantastical creatures, maybe these amazing inventions, maybe they aren't as impossible as we think they are. In second grade, my teacher used to tell us that Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Dublin, Ohio. So I turned to my friend one day, I'm like, all right, let's do this. Let's try and build Dublin, Ohio in a day. And it might not have been a day. It might have been a 1.5-hour recess period. But sure did we try. So we worked diligently. We rallied the entire class to make this tiny paper glue and tape model of Dublin, Ohio, and from the creases in the sidewalk to the little rolls of paper towels in the grocery store, we had it all. But when I came in the next day, I looked to my left, and I saw all of our beautiful little buildings, our beautiful little paper town, put in the recycling bin. And I remember turning to my teacher, and I asked, why did you throw away our paper town? And she said, because we don't have time for that. Because we don't have time for that. Okay, you might call me a little salty. Yeah, I'm still a little salty. I mean, there's no better representation of how we today in society view impossibilities. We say just because there's a 0.0001% chance of it happening, it's not worth our most valuable resource, time. So eventually, the fantasies took over for me, and I'm like, I can't just read these stories or watch these movies and television shows. I have to make my life an adventure just like my favorite characters. And it may sound silly, but the way I decided to become a superhero and save the world and put on my cape was to research algae-based biofuel. Because to me, I grew up in a world where everyone pointed to global warming and said, that's your enemy, go at it. Let's get to the battle. And I might not have fought with fists, but heck, I fought with test tubes, and that was my way. So at every moment of my journey, I ended up taking a risk, and whether or not that was deciding to enter the science fair, originally, to eventually realizing I didn't have the capabilities, with the lab that I had built in my garage, and, decided to ask the Ohio State University for help, to eventually deciding to go it solo with my project, abandoning the science fair, and deeming my project the Collins Miller Project, which basically is named for my two favorite teachers, and thanks for all the help that they gave me. And that led me to the ultimate risk that I had to take, and that is the risk that every single scientist must eventually face. That is asking the question, is my idea unique? Am I the first person to have solved this problem this way before? And I figured, heck, I've come this far. Let's just give it a shot. So, so I gave it a go, and this past spring, I was invited to speak at the Pentagon to Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Navy's Department of Energy, Joseph Bryan, about my research in alternative energy. And it may have been 5 years, but I made it there. And that was the day that I got to be Indiana Jones. That was the day that the United States government got to ask me about what I knew the best, and that I got to fight off the Nazi of global warming. And I'm not going to stand here on this little red rug today, though, and tell you that it's easy to change your mindset, because that is the ultimate impossibility. It's looking everything you know in the face and saying, maybe you aren't as true as I thought you are. And it's hard to live a life like that, where you're not even sure that the floor in front of you exists. But at the same time, if you really, really want to change the world, this kind of skepticism is important. It's a risk worth taking. Now, I want to leave you tonight with a quote from my favorite explorer, of course, Indiana Jones. And he says, I ask you to ask yourself, what do you believe in? And because Indy half the time was off, finding some random artifact in the South American jungle, I got to add to that and ask you to question exactly what you believe in. Because in the end, we all have to put on a fedora and find our own Ark of the Covenant. Have a good night, Columbus!